All right. They have to change their self-respect. They have to realize, one, they have control over their futures. I like to say, I have never met a person who said, you know what I want out of life? I want to be miserable. I want people to distrust me all the time. I want to get in fights all the time. I just want to have to work really hard and never get anywhere. That's what I'm going after. No one does that. And yet, we see many students every day who make choices that lead them exactly to that, don't we? But no one starts off that way. They don't believe they have control over their futures. If you ask students from elementary school all the way through high school what they want to do when they become adults, they won't necessarily know, but I'll tell you one thing they can tell you. I don't want people telling me what I have to do all the time. I want to make my own decisions. I want to be able to do whatever I want. That's a universal, all right? But they don't believe they have that control. Some of these students just don't believe they have that control. So why would they try? See, we have to help them realize that they can succeed. That's how we develop self-respect, is by helping students realize they can control their futures and they can succeed. Now, you mentioned self-esteem at the beginning, and I like to talk about self-esteem explicitly. It's all right. Because we have a perception of self-esteem that doesn't exactly fit with what psychologists mean by self-esteem. And I want to clarify that. Self-esteem, generally, we see as a need to feel good about yourself. Do you know where it came from? Do you know why it became so popular? Prison studies. In the 60s, psychologists were studying prisoners, and they came to a remarkable realization. They said, you know what? Just about everybody here has really low self-esteem. And you know what? Out in society, among successful people, most people have good self-esteem. So you know what? If we can raise self-esteem, we can keep people out of prison. Well, educators picked up on that really quickly. And they started to apply it to other things. Well, if we can raise self-esteem, we can benefit our kids. The problem is, it's getting a bad name today because we know that not everything that makes you feel good is good for you. One of my favorite phrases is you can drink self-esteem in a bottle and you can feel good for a while. But when the effects wear off, you're no better off than you were before. And depending on what happens, you might be worse off. Right? It's not about feeling good. And that's why I talk about self-respect. It's different from self-esteem. Why? First and foremost, because you have to earn it. Nobody can give you self-respect. You can't drink it in a bottle. You get it from feeling good about your accomplishments. Don't you? If you accomplish something, you can feel good about that forever. No matter what anyone says, no matter whatever happens to you, if you have accomplished something based on your own efforts, you have that forever. Right? And people who are very successful can give you page after page after page of such accomplishments. But let's start thinking about those students who continually exhibit challenging behaviors. How many of those accomplishments do they have? The student who is performing below grade level in just about everything. The student who's facing problems at home and feels he or she doesn't fit in anywhere. How are they going to feel good about something they've accomplished? They haven't accomplished anything, and they'll tell you that. I never did anything worthwhile. Right? You have to have success. You have to have success to have self-respect. Now, we've taken kind of a step here. Because when we start thinking about behaviors and modifying behaviors, we think about rewards and punishments. I'm saying think about success. and start anticipating this. How do we do that? Well, let's talk about it. You have to provide students with structured opportunities to build success. It doesn't happen on its own. For some students it does, but for these problem students that we're thinking about, it doesn't just happen. You have to take some extra steps. You have to think about it. And I tell my teachers in my program, every time you think about a lesson, I want you to think about how you have structured opportunities for students who typically fail to succeed. You can call it differentiated instruction if you like, but I want you to focus on how do I help these students succeed? And I'm going to talk about the most challenging one. Okay, the example of the student who won't try anymore. Who asked? Did you ask? Somebody mentioned, you said, what do you do when somebody, that was you, that said students don't continue. Okay. Start by finding success within a typical scenario for failure. Let those words sink in for a little bit because it might sound confusing. See, we know that students give up, right? And what do? Oh, you can do it, you can do it. And we point to examples of what they've done and we say, you can do it. I know you're smart. Come on, I'm with you. I'll help you. Come on, let's do anything. I'll help you. You can get there. And we go on and we go on and we go on and they just, not going to happen. Or they'll say, yeah, okay. And then they keep acting the same way they always have. Right? We are asking them to make the first step. Stop it. If it hasn't worked, stop it. You know, if I came up here and I was beating my head against the wall and I found that it kept hurting, wouldn't I be insane to keep beating my head against this wall? But isn't that what we do when we continue to try the same thing again and again and again and again and again and it doesn't work? Well, let's try something different. Here's a very simple example. And you're going to need to be creative and think about your students and what you teach and how you work with your students to apply this to you. And I'll tell you also, anybody who wants to follow up with me after this is over with a specific circumstance you're dealing with, I will help you strategize how to apply what I'm about to say to your situation. All right? But I'm going to give you one example. Tests. Tests. Because some of our students fail test after test after test. They don't study, they don't do their homework, they don't pay attention in class, so no surprise, right? And we try to encourage them, and we say, come on, you can do this, and all these things we've been saying, and they continue to fail. And so after a while, we take the paper, and we just hand it to them, and we go on, right? I want to suggest that you do something different, okay? I don't know whose this is, but I'm going to use it as a prop. Let's pretend this is a test paper. Now, we know that when we hand back tests and somebody's got an F, we're not waving it around like this so everybody can see that it's an F as we go to give it to somebody. Right? You know, we're keeping it kind of confidential. We don't want to embarrass them or anything like that, so that's good. I want you to take another step. Before you hand the test back next time, open it up to something the student got right. All right? Now, once you go up to that student, what's your name? Josh. I'm going to pick on you for a minute, Josh. Is that all right? Yeah, sure. You got good self-respect, right? You can handle a little picking on. All right. I'm going to pretend that Josh gets F after F after F. I'm sure that's not the case. You wouldn't be here.